Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
Hey folks, America's favorite financial sidekick here, Aaron Ornder, and coming up on today's show, we've got Tony's top Tony in the trenches, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement with best-selling author and fiduciary Tony Walker.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it, get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it. And it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.
Well, welcome, folks, to the Worry-Free Retirement. And yes, I am that little man in the sweater vest, Tony Walker. And boy, we've got a great show for you today. And actually, I know through the magic of radio, you can't see us in the Louisville studios, but we've actually revamped the studios. And the reason we did that is because, as we discussed in a marketing meeting recently, we have not taken any time in the last several months to just really delve into what we call the most popular Tony in the Trenches questions. Those are questions that come to our office about various financial topics. And possibly for the next 2 episodes, we're going to cover some of the most popular and most recurring themes and questions that come into our offices. And as we record this show on April 21st, 2021, I want to welcome a whole slew of people. Of course, as always, you just heard from America's favorite financial sidekick, Mr. Aaron Orender, the producer of the show. Good morning, Aaron.
Hey, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good, good. And then you've heard from this young man before, my favorite son-in-law, fellow fiduciary and chief compliance officer. Boy, that has a nice ring. At Tony Walker Financial, Mr. Trey Juergens. Good morning, Trey.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
You are so welcome. Thanks for getting up. Lacey let you out of the house early this morning?
Yep.
Okay.
Shep, our new puppy, kept us up all night, but I'm here.
Okay. I noticed the eyes look a little bug-eyed, but again, people can't see that, Trey. Don't worry about it. And then last but not least, one of our newest members of the crew, our technical director and graphics expert, the man with the plan, Mr. Derek Hudson. Good morning, Derek.
Good morning, Tony.
And it's funny, again, as we record this show, let me repeat this. April 21st, 2021. Let's see, Aaron, when will this show be on?
It's going to be towards the end of May.
Okay, so the end of May. So most of you may have already forgotten this and may not believe me. There is literally here in Louisville, Kentucky, over an inch of snow on the ground. And I was kidding Derek this morning. You got to sleep in a little longer. I said, Derek, get up real early this morning because we got to get some video of a documentary type show we're working on of me driving into the back parking lot. Well, we were expecting flowers and somewhat sunny skies, and here we are with snow, so you got to sleep in a little longer, so no problems, right?
An extra 15 minutes, yeah.
15 minutes. Okay, so how this is going to work, again, my favorite son-in-law, Trey, who also meets with a lot of folks. Trey is mainly in the Louisville offices. Again, if you're just now joining us and never heard of Tony Walker Financial or the Worry-Free Retirement Radio Show, we have offices in Bowling Green, Louisville, and Lexington, Kentucky offices in those locations. So what I'm going to do is turn it over to Trey. And Trey, explain to the audience here how we kind of went through this whole dissertation because we get so many questions. But kind of what the scene is going to be like today and how we're going to handle some of these Tony in the Trenches.
Yeah, so these questions came in whether from emails straight to us as fiduciaries. We actually are accessible. You can email us questions. These are phone calls that were repeatedly answered over and over again in the Bowling Green office where most all of our business is serviced. But we compiled all these questions and we're just going to throw them out there for you to answer. So I'm sure other people have these same questions.
Oh, and I think this is going to be awesome. And by the way, folks, if let's say you listen to the radio show, some of what I'm going to be doing, this is going to sound odd, is actually going to be on the whiteboard. Now, I'm going to describe what I'm saying on the whiteboard, but obviously you can't see it. So we'll be doing these same questions on our television show, The Worry-Free Retirement. We're on several stations throughout Kentucky. So Aaron, also tell them about the YouTube channel before we get started in case they want to check out what I'm going to say visually on the YouTube channel.
Sure, no problem. So folks, if you want to check out the TV show, but you just don't get up that early and see it live or something like that, feel free to go to youtube.com, and right there in the search bar, type in Tony Walker Financial. When you do that, click the search button and you'll see Tony's smiling face. Just click on that and you're going to find all past episodes of the Worry-Free Retirement.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Okay, Trey, let her rip. We don't have any particular order here, so you start with Tony in the Trenches, number 1.
Sure, of course. So as of the date of recording, it's April 21st. We've got a question here. Tony, I'm pretty thrilled with what my 401k's done over the past year in the stock market, but with our national debt through the roof, I'm concerned I'll be taxed to death on this money. Do you suggest any strategies for minimizing that tax hit?
And I would say, let's see, how many appointments did I have yesterday, Trey? Probably 13, 14.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing, I should have kept a note of this, probably 6, maybe 6 of those, I'm trying to think, asked about future tax rates. So many of you probably don't know a lot about the tax laws or the system or the history, but I think most of you would probably agree. Let me do a straw poll real quick while you're riding down the road or whatever. With the nation's debt through the roof, what are we up to? Almost 30 trillion now?
32, I think.
32. Okay, I'm losing track. And with just really the spending that's out of control and all these low interest rates, if you were a guessing man or woman, again, ask yourself this question. Do you really, really believe taxes are going to stay at this amount, or do you think they would go up much higher in the future? So, Aaron, play our little clock there and give them some time to think. Okay, I think we would all agree. Derek, you know very little about finances. You'd admit this. Given the circumstances of our economy, et cetera, if you're a betting man, would you say taxes will go up in the future?
Not only taxes, but inflation too.
There you
Everything's
go.
going up.
It goes hand in hand. Very good, Derek. You've done more than graphics over there the last 12 months.
I've listened on a few days.
So let's think about this, folks. So if we have a country that's got $30+ trillion in debt, Trey, where might the government go one day to try to raise more tax revenue to try to pay down that debt? Where's the obvious source of potential revenue?
Well, I think maybe 401ks. There's a whole lot of money there. Actually, a fact is there's about $29 trillion in qualified funds, pensions, 401ks, IRAs.
Money that hasn't been taxed. So when we say qualified, yep.
You're exactly right.
So you've got to take the money out. If you're not aware of this, even if you say, well, I don't want to take the money out, I'll just let it keep growing pre-tax. That's fine. But at age 72, they're going to make you take it out. So bottom line is, and then they changed the law last year in 2020 so that your heirs used to be, remember, Trey, you used to be able to stretch it.
Yeah,
so when you inherited money, you'd stretch it up. You can't do that anymore. So they are going to get that money, folks. Now, this is not law yet, and as we record this show, these are just proposals. But one of the wildest proposals in the taxes right now under the Biden administration is they're considering, but this just shows you what they're thinking. I don't really care whether they do it or not. It's what they're thinking, okay? They're considering surcharging. If you reach a certain amount in your 401k, it doesn't matter if you take it out or not, you will be taxed if that thing goes over a certain level. Now, this was back in the 80s, folks. I've been doing this a long time. I got in this business in 84. And back in the 80s, with large individual pension plans that hadn't been taxed, a lot of doctors had these. You remember all the small doctors' offices, and they'd have 2 or 3 nurses, and the guy would work by himself? Well, a lot of those doctors back then would fund pension plans, and those things would get pretty big. Well, they started trying to surcharge those. They did it. So the history of the taxes, let's go back to the history. When the history of the taxes were enacted in this country, we're talking about federal income taxes in 1913. I think they were, I forget the graphic, I think they were around 13%. There was temporary tax. We need a little revenue, folks. Hang in there with us. Eventually, in the 60s, it got up to around 90% taxes. Now the average federal tax rate for most of our clients is about 15 to 20 at the max. So folks, you got to understand something. Here's the summary to this question. You got money in your 401k, your IRA, your lump sum pension. It has not been taxed yet. The government needs money. As Trey just pointed out, you got $29 trillion sitting out there in these coffers waiting to be taxed. If you don't have a game plan to deal with what I call the tax tumor, you better get one. So what is the tax tumor? The tax tumor is just like any tumor we have in our physical bodies. It just happens to be encroached and invaded and infested inside your 401k. So the tax tumor, think about it, folks. The problem is it's going to grow and get higher even as your account grows. So what we have to do is come up with a strategy to try to enjoy more of the money now. Now, when we meet, if you decide to meet to go over these strategies, there's all kinds of things we can do. We can do Roth conversions, right, Trey? A few of our clients will do those. That's an option. You can start spending the money now. That's an option while the tax rates are low. A lot of people who maybe say, well, I don't really need the money. You know what I always say? I say, well, who might need the money, right? Kids, grandkids. So some of you are sitting on this powder keg waiting to blow up. And then my point is, hey, while the taxes are low, let's get some of that money out of there, pay the tax now. And while the gift tax laws, I forgot about that, they're wanting to change those too. While the gift tax laws are favorable and you can give money tax-free to your kids and grandkids now, why not? So there's so many things you can do to deal with that tax tumor. So if you're sitting there saying, well, Tony, I don't have a plan to deal with these taxes, and you would like to talk in detail about your situation, there's two ways we can do this, and we'll be repeating this throughout the show, how you can contact us. First thing you can do is just go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com, fill out the Let's Get Started, make sure you emphasize that you want to talk about your tax tumor and how to reduce that. And then there's another option. Trey, tell everybody about this. This was kind of your idea, but the 10-minute free fiduciary phone call. Because, you know, some people don't want to drive to the office. They just want to talk and see what's going on and maybe see if we can help. Tell them how they can take advantage of that and how that works.
Yeah, the easiest way to do that, go to our website. We've got the Let's Get Started form. That's not a total commitment to set up an in-person appointment. What you can do, either by Zoom or by phone, is set up a 10-minute, you can live schedule actually right on the website and talk to one of our fiduciaries. We hear constantly the amount of time people are waiting on hold with these big financial institutions. They've got questions. Nobody's answering them. You can call us. So that Let's Get Started, or just call us directly at 877-499-9255. Ask to talk to Trey or Heather or Wes. We can set up 10 minutes to answer your questions.
And of course, if I'm available, I'll be happy to talk. I guess probably Tuesdays and Wednesdays are a little busy for me, but it doesn't, we're closed on Fridays, but Monday and Thursday, especially when I'm in the Bowling Green office, Shannon probably passes off at least 3 calls a day to me. Hey, Tony, you got time to take this call? Yeah, I'll patch them through. Yeah. So a lot of times if you just call the office Monday through Thursday and say, hey, I got a quick question, is somebody available? Generally, we'll have somebody available. So it's pretty cool. All right, Trey, go to Tony in the Trenches number 2 there.
Number 2, another one about high stock market. The market continues to find all-time highs amidst so much uncertainty. I have an IRA and some stock that I want to pull some winnings off the table. Tony, what do you suggest?
Well, I suggest if you haven't taken any winnings off the table, none of this is real. What do you think I mean by that, Aaron? You've heard me say none of this is real. If I've got $200,000, 100% in the stock market, and it's at all-time highs, what do I mean by none of this is real?
That money's not really your money yet.
Aha. See, folks, I learned from one of my mentors. I've had the good privilege of studying under a lot of great financial minds over the years, but Bob Castellone always said this. At the time, I'll be honest, I didn't really get it. This was back 25, 30 years ago when he first said it, but he said, money is not worth anything until it's converted to cash, and here's the key, Trey, used. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to that. So yeah, I agree. I mean, we've got some Schwab portfolios. We have different portfolios, so I know you're my compliance officer. I have to be careful I say this, but we've had a few of our clients, depending on how aggressive they've been in the last couple of years, have done really, really well.
Oh, yeah.
Had a couple in yesterday that's done well. Now, in their case, they have a non-qualified account. That's called rebalancing, folks. So the idea of having a diversified portfolio, this is the service we provide at Tony Walker Financial for our Charles Schwab clients, is let's say it was at 160 originally, okay? The market's gone up. Now it's at $200,000. And especially if you're not even in a 401k plan or IRA, but you're in a non-qualified account. So if we rebalance this thing, these people have a $40,000 gain that they're going to have to pay taxes on. But what I told them is, yeah, that's fine, but if you're at $200,000 and this market crashes, we're going to lose all of our gains. So as Aaron says, it's not real until it's enacted on. Well, if we rebalance it and get some of those stocks off the table and move them more into bonds to get it more conservative, we're going to have a capital gain of about $40,000. So I went back to that same reasoning and I said, do we take a risk and hope this doesn't go down? Or do we go on and take the winnings off the table? It's money in our pocket. That's real money. And even though we got to pay the taxes, those taxes are going to be due anyway. So folks, if that's you, if you're sitting there right now, we've got a new service we're going to offer. You need to hear about this. even if you're not a client of Tony Walker Financial, if you're sitting out there with a 401k plan, all right, or an IRA, and nobody's really looked at it in a while, and you've had quite a bit of money in the stock market, that thing is not in balance. What has probably happened, unbeknownst to you, is it's become more and more weighted toward the stock market. Am I being clear on this, Trey? Because this is a key point.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So on paper, it looks great. You're looking at your statement going, oh my gosh, this is wonderful. And then in a moment's notice, this bottom could drop out. So here's a free service we now have. And again, one of our licensed fiduciaries, remember, besides myself, we have 3 fiduciaries we can talk to at any time, but it's called a free 401k checkup. And it's really simple. Again, even if you're not a client, doesn't matter your age, if you're 45 or 85, it doesn't matter. All you do is contact our office. We'll verify your email, verify you're talking to us, and we can either meet in person, but for something like this, what we're asking you to do is just scan the documents to us. Your 401k plan, all of your options. If you want to white out account numbers, that's fine. But then what we'll do is we'll talk to you over the phone, determine your level of risk, look at your current positions, and more than likely, you're going to be out of balance. So folks, as we just talked about, it's not real money until it's real money. So all this growth in the stock market, we're all for it, amen, hallelujah, and all that. But folks, until you convert that to cash, put it in your pocket and spend it, remember, none of this is real. Okay, one more question. We got to take a break in just a second here. Let's get to Tony in the Trenches number 3 real quick, because this is a doozy. And if you don't mind, Trey, make sure you talk about the fellow from Michigan who led to this question, although we get this question a lot. And then I wanted to ask you, I forgot to ask you, how do you think he found out about us way up in Michigan?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this was a good one. So his question, he actually emailed in, I've seen other advisors charge fees for planning services. If we meet with you in person, will we actually get to meet with you, Tony, and what will that cost?
Okay, well, let me answer that one first. First of all, there is never, ever any cost to meet with me in person. Okay, and yes, I'm available at any time. In fact, out of the 12 or 14 appointments I had yesterday, even our clients will tell you I can meet with them as well at any time. That's what one of the persons met with yesterday. I even showed them our appointment list. New prospect. They said, we appreciate meeting with you. We enjoy meeting with the owner of the company, watched you on TV. But they looked at me kind of sarcastically and said, if we do become a client, okay, that's fine, are we still going to be able to meet with you? And I didn't answer the question. I said, why would you ask that question? They said, because we're with somebody now. Years ago, we went with, quote, the main person, and immediately we were passed off to someone else. We haven't seen them again. So, folks, the reason I have so much staff and the reason I've trained the fiduciaries in the worry-free retirement process is for the very reason so I can see more people. That makes sense, Trey?
Oh, yeah.
So absolutely, I will be happy to see you at any time that it's convenient for all of us, obviously. We have 3 offices. We can do Zoom calls, but I'm completely accessible to our clients and prospective clients. Now, back to this fee thing. Now, the gentleman from Michigan, so I think he talked to a couple people. What's he looking at? What are his options exactly?
Yeah, so he's actually retiring. He's got a pretty substantial 401k. Talked to an advisor that wanted to charge him upwards of 2% in fees. Mentioned an annuity in this plan that the advisor suggested. So what he did was he went to the internet and started looking around about fees and annuities. So once he stumbled upon our website, he saw that the How You Get Paid website page on our site, one of the top 5 most visited, mentioned exactly how we get paid.
So that's interesting. Yeah, and that's every time we look at our analytics on our website, it's funny how many people go to that, how do we get paid? So let's address that right now because that's very important. So let's talk about the financial world. I think it's important to understand how the financial world gets paid. They get paid in one of 2 ways. Number 1, a financial advisor can earn fees. Okay? There's a few, I tried this years ago, there's a few that charge what's called planning fees. In the 90s, I went through all the CFP stuff and all that, and I said, I'm going to charge a planning fee. So the planning fee to do everything, to cover my time, was $2,500. Guess how many people took me up on that deal?
Not many.
Even though I said, hey, I won't sell you any products or whatever, they said, well, I don't want to pay a fee. Can you not just do the planning? And if we buy products, we'll buy the products from you. I said, I'm going back to that deal. So, but what we're talking about when we say fees is what's called money management fees. So the average money manager, especially depending on the account, on average charges about 1.25 to 1.5% So this person that's looking at somebody charging 2%, that's a whopper. I mean, now, and a lot of people, Trey, let's back up a minute, because a lot of people really think of 2%. That really doesn't sound like a lot, right? Let's take, because they're confusing with my next point, commissions. Okay, so let's imagine you went and sold your house through a real estate agent. I saw one on TV the other day. They have a new service where they'll sell your house for 2% commission. Now, everybody understands real estate, says that's pretty cheap, right? Because normally it's 5 or 6. So if I say, well, I'm only going to charge you 2% in fees, you might say, hey, that's pretty reasonable. But folks, you got to understand, a real estate transaction, just like if you purchase an annuity from us or life insurance, those are one-time transactions. Those come with commissions. What this gentleman's talking about is unknowingly, possibly, being charged 2% every year. So let's say did he say how much money he had, Trey? You think it was at least $500,000?
It was exactly $500,000.
Oh, $500,000. Okay. So that means this gentleman, for the privilege of somebody handling his money and hopefully making him money, you never know, they could lose it all, is going to charge him $10,000, not one time. Okay, this is a recurring fee, $10,000 per year to manage the money. And in most cases, there's no guarantees you'll get anything for that. In fact, it tickles me. One of my favorite ads on TV, it's a great ad because it's catchy, but it's almost comical. It's a big money manager firm, and I think their line is something like, our fees are structured so we do better when you do better. I think that's how, didn't it go something like that? Yeah. And what I would say is, that's true, and we do the same thing, but also fees for all money managers are structured so that when you do worse, they and we still do better. So this is why we try to charge a reasonable fee. Our fee is 0.8%. So on that same block of money, if that gentleman turned it over to us, you're talking about, it's still $4,000. Don't get me wrong, it's still a lot of money. But that comes with all of the free financial planning advice. It comes with all my experience. It comes with multiple fiduciaries. Comes with a full service team of service experts. It comes with a free income game plan that we will monitor for you. I mean, the amount of services we're going to provide, the bang for your buck is crazy. So the good thing is, as the owner of the company, I can set those fees. So if you're sitting there right now, folks, and maybe you don't even know what your fees are, most people don't. So if you've got money that's in a 401k, a previous 401k, maybe you've moved it over to an IRA, or maybe you have a money manager handling your money and they're not really being real upfront about the fees, or you feel like they're charging you too much and not doing a whole lot to earn the money, let's talk. It's really easy to do. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com. And let's get started with the discussion. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a real quick break, Trey. Let me get organized real quick. We're going to have Aaron break to a 30-second commercial, and we're going to come back. We got time probably for one more, you think?
One more, yeah.
Okay, one more. So let's take a quick break. You're listening to The Worry-Free Retirement. I'm Tony Walker. I'll be right back. Have you recently retired, been laid off, or offered a pension buyout? Has the company you work for moved, been acquired, or closed its doors forever? And finally, do you have a 401k with a previous employer you'd like to move to safer territory? Then take advantage of this opportunity to move your 401k or lump sum pension to Tony Walker Financial. Let's meet in person to discuss your retirement options. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com to schedule your free, no obligation appointment. Let us help you today. Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement. Before we get started, I meant to ask you, Derek, you pulled into that brand new Subaru back there. You've had that a couple of months. What is it, Outback?
It's Forester.
Forester. I always want to say Outback. Now, did you have a Forester just like that? It was kind of an old clunker?
Yeah, it was a 2005 Forester.
Okay. And then tell the quick story about that. I asked you, do you still have that Forester?
Right. Well, so back in like November, it broke down like twice, and you were like, hey, why don't you go get something newer? And around December, I did that, and my buddy moved to town from back home in Metropolis, Illinois, and he didn't have a car, so I was like, well, I'll tell you what, before my dad comes up and takes the old one, because he was going to drive it, I was like, why don't you just borrow my old one so you can get to work?
Let me interrupt you. I think I know where this story's going. Buddy just came into town, borrow, keep going. I don't know if this is going to end well.
Well, it took about 5 days. 5 days later, he drove into another car. He was tired. He had just gotten off work. We were going to go get dinner and hang out. And yeah, as soon as he left his driveway, he drove into somebody else.
Oh my gosh. So did you say he ended up buying it from you
Yeah,
after all?
he actually, he found the money and he bought it for what it was worth before being wrecked. So he made up for it. So, and it still drives. He's getting it fixed. He's getting it taken care of. And, I really love that car. So it was
All's well and ends well.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it worked out.
Well, good deal. All right, in the time remaining, we're kind of going to tie in with, if you're just now joining us, the last Tony in the Trenches was really about fees and that type of thing. So a lot of people ask this next question. Trey, let her rip.
Yeah, this is a good one. I hear it quite often. Tony, who is Charles Schwab? And is that mailbox money you talk about? Do you charge a fee on what we invest in Charles Schwab? If so, how do you calculate that fee?
Okay, very good. Yeah, so we've trademarked the term mailbox money. So again, that's something proprietary to Tony Walker Financial. So mailbox money technically is defined as income guaranteed for life. Okay, so I got the term mailbox money from my granddad, who in 1978 retired from Bell South, and he received his pension in Social Security. I can remember there in Troy, Kentucky, once a month, I'd be in the car occasionally with granddad. He'd pull up the mailbox. Literally, he'd open it up. I could tell when he knew something was in there because he'd grab it real quick and smile. That was his monthly pension check and Social Security check. And he said, mailbox money. That's just kind of his term. Mailbox money, when you get into outside of pensions and Social Securities, the only product that can provide mailbox money, guaranteed income you can never outlive, is an annuity. Okay. So when we say Charles Schwab, when we put Charles Schwab into one of our income plans, or what we call our proprietary split IRA concept, Charles Schwab is an investment company. Now, Schwab, if you go on their website, I think they sell annuities. We don't use their annuities, I'm just saying. But Schwab primarily is securities. Their specialty is in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, bank products. Really, they're more of a securities or brokerage company. And we use Charles Schwab as our custodian to get those products. So contrary to popular belief, although we're known around the country for the amount of annuities we do, I've been licensed to sell securities since the mid-'80s, so I know a lot about that world. In fact, as a compliance officer, I know you've been working on updating our ADV paperwork. We crossed the threshold. We're now going to be regulated by the SEC based on the amount of money under management. Where are we now, roughly? Since we started the Charles Schwab program, Trey, in April of 2017, how much do we have under management with them?
We have over $135 million under management.
Okay, wow. And I think, about 1,500 accounts or something?
1,600 accounts.
16. Okay. So it's very, very popular, folks. So there are times when people come to me and they go, well, I want some mailbox money. Well, the Schwab can provide income. We can give you immediate income out of that. The definition of the Schwabs, though, remember, it is not guaranteed. That's another thing, Trey. I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they were meeting with a broker, which is fine, and the broker was showing all this income down the road, and the gentleman had enough chutzpah. He looked at the broker, he said, I looked at him and I said, this all looks good, but is this guaranteed? And I said, why did you ask that? And he said, well, I've seen you talk about this mailbox money and using the word guarantee, and he said, the broker said, no, it's not. So folks, remember, this show, our practice, Tony Walker Financial, Worry-Free Retirement, is geared around the mind and the heart of a saver. That's that person that's more concerned about the return of their money than on it. So that's you. If you're sitting there right now and you're saying, Tony, all this sounds great. I don't really have a game plan. I sure don't have a local advisor in whom I can trust. I'm tired of all these 1-800 numbers. I just want to be able to talk to somebody in person that can speak my, English when it comes to this stuff. Let me invite you to go to our website at TonyWalkerFinancial.com, TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Click on the Let's Get Started. Again, we can meet in person, by phone. We can have that free 10-minute fiduciary phone call to see how we can help you. Or at any time, Monday through Thursday, just give us a call at 877-499-9255. That's 877-499-WALK. Well, it looks like we've run out of time. Next week, we're going to continue with more Tony in the Trenches. Some good stuff coming your way, but between now and then, you remember, if all else fails, you be worry-free.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do.